Is that about FEMA flood maps?
Oh, yeah. I did too much. Was interesting.
Okay, welcome everybody to the regular stated meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. This is the meeting for Thursday, January 18th, 2024. This is to formally advise that, as required by General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16, 2021, as extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, the Yarmouth Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted above. The public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. Our first order of business is a request for determination of applicability. This is for Jason and Catherine Weiner, 10 Mariners Lane, proposed fence replacement and expansion, tree removal, and native plantings in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetative wetland. So come on up, take a seat, and then if you would, just state your name for the record and then briefly describe the project, and then if you have any questions, we'll send it out to you after that.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jason Weiner. This is my wonderful wife, Catherine Weiner, of 10 Mariners Lane. So thank you all in advance for your time and attention this evening. I'll give a brief description and then, of course, open up to any questions. The goals of the proposed project at our home at 10 Mariners Lane is threefold. Number one, to replace an old broken fence. Number two, to remove 4 overcrowded problematic trees. And number 3 is to add 15 new native trees and 3 new native shrubs. So the project includes expanding the fenced-in area on the east side of the property, outside of the 35-foot buffer zone, and the majority of which happens beyond the 50-foot buffer zone. And this is to enable us to push the fence to the property line. And enable replacement of invasive ivy with new native trees and shrubs. So the expanded area will be filled with new native plantings, no new grass in that expanded area. In fact, the project will result in less grass yard overall to enable the planting of the privacy trees. And in regards to the 4 proposed trees for removal, these trees are overcrowded. They're shading the house and causing some mold issues. We did have one large tree from the conservation land fall in the house in September. It appears that some of the trees are getting crowded out by vines. That's actually a picture of some of the remains of that tree that fell in the house. So the vines are strangling the trees. We want to prevent those any further problems. So that's why we're proposing the removal of the 4 trees, and 15 new trees will be added overall during the project.
Those are also mainly shading and causing mold growth on the side of the house as well, and actually interior as well.
So that's all I wanted to.
Okay.
All I wanted to say, and happy to entertain any questions from the committee or the community.
Oh, the other one was the holly in the front. That's the only one. The 3 that were crowded over on the right, and then the front one is the holly, which is right there that Brittany is pointing to right now, number 1. That's just growing into current lines coming into the house, as well as shading and causing mold growth on that left side. So again, replacement of that tree with a native planting, just further away from the house, more conducive to not as much shade.
All right, thank you. Questions from the board?
Someone's calling you. Remind me to do
That was me, sorry. Any questions from the board? Brittany, anything?
No questions.
Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions on this project? Anybody on Zoom have any questions? Raise your hand digitally. I see none. If there's no further discussion among the board, then would somebody like to make a motion for a -3?
So moved, David.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
-2 is good.
And so a negative in your case means that there's no further
Look at your
filing
face,
with the
it's like, oh.
Conservation Commission. So you're good to go as far, if you have any other permitting in terms of building permits or anything else, you still need to go through that. But as far as conservation goes, you're all set. You can go ahead with the project as proposed. And Brittany will have the determination, the permit from Conservation for you ready sometime toward the end of next week. Okay, so just check in with her.
Great,
Okay.
thanks so much, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Next order of business, and there's another request for determination of applicability for Hannah Raditz, BSC Group for Douglas and Linda Ducote, 15 Shore Road, proposed concrete pad instead of gravel below the footprint of a dwelling in the velocity zone, flood zone, and the buffer zones to a coastal bank and beach.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group, representing the owner of the property, Doug Ducote. We were in here about 10 years ago with the construction of this house. It's set on pilings. It's near the Lewis Bay. It's on Lewis Bay, sorry. And we're looking to replace the crushed stone that's underneath the building with a concrete pad. Right now, there is a trench drain that runs all the way around the building. That would be left in its current location, and no concrete would be outside of the footprint of the existing pilings. On the ocean side, there is an existing porch, so that entire left-hand side would be not included in where we're putting the concrete. It would be only on the main body of the house that we're looking to do so. So that section right there, if you can see, there would not be any concrete under that. It would just be under the main part of the house, which is 10 feet further back from that outside face. Other than that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. Trying to get them in before the new flood zone regs, huh? Like to see. Questions from the board?
Is there any thought to doing, replacing, instead of doing concrete, putting the pavers in there? Because there are some pavers that they already have under there.
They wanted, no, not with the pavers. Underneath there, they felt that concrete was the better way to go in this particular location. They do want to park underneath the building, even though there's pavers outside that they can park on too, but they'd requested concrete in this area for access around it.
All right, that's the only question I have.
What's the purpose of the concrete? Why concrete?
Primarily, right now there's crushed stone, and they're getting ready to retire, and the crushed stone is just making it difficult to utilize the space.
Anybody else?
Pavers could do it.
Brittany, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose of the crushed stone in the original order of conditions is because this area is regularly inundated during flood times, and having a pervious surface underneath that house, the water can be flowing in from any side and not necessarily just falling off the roof, that it would be kind of impactful if you had a concrete surface that's impervious under there instead of pervious, where the floodwaters can infiltrate back into the ground after a storm event. So I think the concrete has the potential for some negative impacts in the flood zone here, but, so,
If I could just answer that, I think that if this area floods, the amount of flooding will be so large that this 30-foot by 40-foot piece of concrete, there's going to be a half a mile long that's going to flood. This particular little piece of concrete isn't going to make any difference to the flooding, because it will be so small in the overall, because this whole area is pretty level. So if the floodwaters comes up, it's going to cover the entire area. And the water's going to go in and go out, and the ocean is going to go back out. I don't see this piece of concrete as substantial. Yes, it's solid, there's no question it is, but in the overall flooding of Lewis Bay, if that happens, I think this particular piece of concrete is going to be a very small impact.
If their purpose is to use the space as storage and to park on, is there a pervious alternative that they can consider?
Thank you, that was my question, is would they consider the pavers or a pervious?
Well, the only pervious solution would be to put in pavers. And pavers are,
Or permeable?
pavers create their own problem, because then if you're in a flood zone,
Back to the
you
same
may
problem.
have the pavers lift easier than the concrete, and you might have create
Reject-
flying missiles, in a worst-case scenario. I'm not saying that would happen, but a 6-inch by, a 4-inch by 8-inch paver would be more likely to move in a storm than a piece of concrete.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Karen, could you tell me what the dimension of the concrete area is again? I know you mentioned it.
It's approximately 40 by 24. I don't have the exact number, but it's under the main body of the building. There's a trench drain that runs all the way around that, which be left undisturbed.
All right, thank you.
It's a 20.
Jack?
Well, there are a lot of houses that are fairly close to each other along there. So I guess if you're under new regs, you wouldn't even be allowed to have the siding or the boards that you've got there, from what I've seen. But I think that I don't know the types of damage that could happen immediately. Erosion around the edges, the uplifting of that whole concrete, which unless you're putting in 4 or 5 inches versus 2 inches. And, but, I mean, there's no reason not to go with it right now, unfortunately.
I would say that because you're going to drive on it, it's not going to be 2 inches. It would be 4 inches, and it would have wire in it for the mesh to hold it together and make it more solid, so
Okay.
it would be more of a
So you rebar or something?
rebar, yeah. Once you drive on something, you got to strengthen the concrete with more
And
concrete.
probably gravel underneath it, right?
Yes.
Do you have any sense of how thick the crushed stone is there right now?
Typically, we would expect 3 to 4 inches. I don't know exactly, I didn't check that out, obviously, but I would expect 3 to 4 inches.
Just trying to understand why it's not serviceable as it is. It's have a crushed stone driveway.
Running, just take for example, running your barbecue grill in and out daily over crushed stone. It's difficult, and they're getting ready to retire, and they just want to make their life a little bit easier. That's the primary reason for this. There's not any benefit. They can still park on it today. They park on it today. It's purely just to make their life a bit easier as they get ready to retire.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Brittany, anything else?
That's all I had.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if it's for storage, could they cut the size of that in half if they're not, because you can drive on it without a problem, but then if it's for the grill and the other stuff that they're pushing in there, do you have to do the whole base of it? Can they do half of it, so the storage?
I guess I've not really seen a difference between half of it and all of it. It's a piece of concrete on the ground.
It's a
Yeah,
big piece of concrete.
but I think actually the bigger the piece of concrete, the more stable it will be. There's less risk of it moving, if you will, if it's,
Up and going, yeah.
yeah, or any type of uplift with the bigger piece of concrete. So I don't see it beneficial to cut it in half.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with our new regulations, we do have to focus on reducing impervious surfaces in the flood zone. And this is a large impervious surface that, I know you have a house over there, but for floodwaters coming in every direction, it could be impactful. And you're also within the 50 to the coastal bank. I know the house has been there for a very long time, but just another thing to consider.
Well, you're not actually protecting the coastal bank where the house is already there. It's not like we have a vegetated buffer.
No, but you can increase it's just the floodwater impacts that I'm concerned about, but
I mean, I tend to believe that, I understand what you're saying, I tend to believe that, and this is why we certainly wouldn't be allowing any of this to be done
No.
in the velocity zone if it were a new construction. I guess I tend to agree with Kieran in that if the flood comes along, the storm waves are going to be moving through at such rate, and there's so much volume that, you know, I just don't see it as make any real difference. But I understand that's why we're looking at new flood zone regulations that would say no. You'd have to put up an existing structure up on stilts in velocity zone. So
The structure is on stilts.
I'm sorry.
The house is on stilts.
Oh, it is. It is in stilts.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's underneath.
Yeah, so I don't, yeah, thank you for, I didn't realize that. But I tend to agree that I don't think you're gonna be moving a 40 by 20 square foot chunk of concrete. And if you are,
We're in deep trouble.
yeah, you've probably got
So down it would be wrong if that happens.
bigger problems when it goes, so.
Except, what I worry about, if that ever did happen, hopefully never, but, is what's stored in there, that has to go somewhere, right? I mean, the grill is gonna be,
Projectile.
would be the same issue as pavers, or even worse, because that's less likely.
You would
to
have that
stay
same,
stable.
you'd have that same argument if you had crushed stone underneath it too. I mean, if the things that are stored in it are gonna become
Could end up my house.
projectiles of one sort or another, they could be coming into your house. It's like, I'd build a big berm around my property if I were you.
Down there, they have to.
That-
Down there, they have to.
Yeah, I know. That was just my 2 cents on it, but, anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom?
No one there.
Nobody's on Zoom.
I still have to ask it. If not, would somebody like to make a motion for a -2 and 3,
2 and
right?
3.
-2 and 3.
-2 and 3, and so moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Paul, is that Paul? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
All right.
Thank you for your time. It's good to see a full board back. The last meeting was worrisome.
It's always good to have 7.
Thank you.
Next order of business is another request for determination of applicability. Robert and Christine Pelletier, 295 Buck Island Road. This is a proposed small addition in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and within NHESP priority habitat.
We seem to show up here about once every 5 years for some project or another. Our home's designated as a 3-bedroom, septic set up for 3 bedrooms, and this room is one of those bedrooms and does not have a closet at all. Happened to be a quilter, I'm using it as a quilt room right now, and you know us quilters, we have a lot of storage. So we're trying to add an 8 by 16
Oops, left my,
Keep on the speaker.
8 by 16 walk-in closet off the back, I call it the back side of the bedroom, because we're on Big Sandy Pond, and we've always understood the front side of the house to be the pond side. So this addition is not on the pond side, it's about 80 feet away from the pond. Our home is actually right on the 50-foot line. And it's in an area that is strictly lawn at this point. Our builder intends to use Bigfoot sonotubes, 3 of them, to support this, and I think that's the extent of it.
Okay. Anybody on the board?
I have a question. Is the way it was staked out, Is it going right alongside the generator there, or are you gonna be moving the generator?
Generator will have to be moved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would've been too close to the
Right.
house.
Yeah, and actually, we're putting a window in each end of the room for ventilation, and the generator has to be at least 5 feet away from any intake. So it'll be, and we also have an air conditioning unit there, so we'll ask the generator people to reposition it where it will be in its proper position.
The other one is a curiosity question. Why do you have that tiny little bump in on that?
That room,
It's the arrow going in.
oh, no, that's just the arrow
All
going in.
right, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why would they make it as far as it's like that? So, that was curiosity.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Anybody else?
So weird.
Brittany?
It is weird.
No, I don't have any questions, but the whole property is in priority habitat for endangered species and wildlife, and we have not heard back from them yet, so we won't be able to close the hearing tonight. But the chairman can let you know what the next steps are.
Okay, so, well, I'll get back to you on that one in just a minute. Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? All right, so what we'll do right now is we're just we'll continue this solely for the purpose of receiving the comment from Natural Heritage. That way, if they have any, I don't see any reason why they would be commenting negatively about it. But it's a formality that we have to wait before we can sign. So I'll continue this for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
What's the date?
February 1st.
February 1st. So we'll continue this to February 1st. Hopefully by that time, Natural Heritage will have sent their comments back, and we'll just be able to, if they do have any comments, we'll be able to discuss those. If not, then we'll just go ahead and sign off on the order at that point, okay?
Okay. So do we need to be back here again, or?
I would say you probably don't have to be if you can get the Natural Heritage comment back and it says no problems, then yeah, there's not an issue. If they would have some sort of comment, then I would definitely come back just so you're here so we can discuss things.
Absolutely.
But again, I don't think that you're gonna have to worry about that. And I'm hoping that you'll get the Natural Heritage, but I can't guarantee that you'll get the Natural Heritage comment back within 2 weeks either. So it's sometimes they get a little bogged down with their response. So, but hope everything is there by the 31st, so that you can get signed off on the 1st then. Okay? But and we won't do any. Yeah. So at that point, we'll just be worrying about the comments from Natural Heritage. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so,
Ed,
yeah.
just on an aside, do you have worries about the drainage come off the side of that and captured by the extension?
No, we have proper gutters everywhere, and that will join in with another gutter, and,
Well, I was thinking, okay, but just ground drainage, I was thinking.
Parallels.
yeah. Right now, there's a gutter that goes straight across the back of the house, so that will be moved out 8 feet, and it will be a little bit longer, but approximately not much longer than what we currently have, and that's properly,
He's worried about the ground.
groundwater, yeah, but there is,
The groundwater on our property
yeah.
disappears very quickly. We have one spot that puddles when it rains and it's gone within
Way
an
down
hour.
at the other end of the house, so we don't really have any drainage issues there at all. We have a perfectly dry basement, thankfully.
Oh, there's the telling.
Right.
Okay, unless there's any further discussion, do I have a motion to continue to February 1st solely for the purpose of Natural Heritage?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Just to sign it?
Sending this down, which is actually the
This is-
one for 15 Shore Road, so just sign it.
Oh, well said.
Don't ask questions, just sign it.
Learned.
All set, thank you.
Yes, you're all set.
Get called to the office.
That's right.
All right, next order of business is a request to amend an order of conditions. This is for SE 83-2252, Ron Cadillac, for Stephen and Christine Arden, 65 Winter Street. It was proposed construction of a 3-bedroom dwelling with 2-car garage within buffer zone to a BBW. The amended order is asking to add conditions for a proposed swimming pool and walls.
We do.
We do, all right, I'll put you.
I'll take them, yep, thank you.
I'm not sure, I go box and stuff. Oh, thank you. I was wondering if I put it up there. This is just a blow up, roughly a 10 scale.
Could you just grab your microphone so that
Sure.
broadcast, thank you.
Introduce yourself also, please.
Okay. Ron Cadillac, professional land surveyor. I'm here with Paul McCarthy to my right, and he is the owner of record, even though you have Arden there. At the time the original notice was filed, they had a purchase and sales agreement, but he is the owner of record now. And just to make the record state correct, and sorry for not being here on January 4, but I was in Switzerland with grandchildren until the 6th of January, and I filed early because it wasn't going to be here to file at the normal time. So that was the confusion there. And I don't know, I sent a letter in on Tuesday, and I don't know if the board has had a chance to look at it.
It was sent by email to the board.
Okay, all right. And basically, I'm here to apologize that we did not get permission prior to some of the work. My clients decided they wanted a swimming pool, and that was not in the original order of conditions. And he had started on working on retaining walls before he even contacted me. And if you look at this plan here, he actually had a 4-foot-high wall along here. And when he called me out to look at it, I said, oh, well, that's in a flood zone, and the zoning says there's no more than a 2-foot-high wall. So then he actually demolished part of that, cut it down to 2 feet, and put a 2-foot wall there. So there's a terracing effect. So that resulted in this wall, and that was done before the board's approval, but I didn't want to give you guys a plan until at least we had made that correction. So, and we have increased the planting areas. This was on the original approval, and that's 400 square feet to there, and then we've got 150 square feet here, a little strip, and this actually has hydrangea bushes in it now, and grasses that I guess are invasive, according to Brittany. So we would be removing the grasses. And this area is just kind of an existing area that was on the original plan, and there's arborvitae and a hydrangea tree in there. So we're hoping to leave that as it is. And the original plan called for a swale, and Mr. McCarthy kind of put a stone pipe drainage in there to improve it over what was on the original plan. So, and Phil Cheney is proposing to plant all the plants in here. I don't know if you had a chance to go over that, if you want me to go over that, or if Brittany wants to comment on the plantings that are proposed, but that's basically it. We're proposing a 12 by 26 pool, which is 21 feet off the property line, and it's 10 feet off of the slab, which is required under zoning. And And the only, proposing a patio which will be 50 feet from the wetland. And Paul was telling me that they might want some kind of cantilevered canvas cover over the patio area, and I don't know if we need to show that on the plan or mention it or how that works. An umbrella, basically. Some kind of an umbrella for shade in the patio area, and that's not on the plan, but we do have an outside shower shown and a pool pump also proposed, so.
And were those all included, those were all included in the hardscape calculation?
The proposed shower is not included in this here, but everything else is. The pool pump, I don't know if I would normally include that or not.
Yeah, I mean, those are all, can you also clarify where the patio ends? Is it this entire area around the pool?
I've shaded it here, so you can see the dimensions. So basically it's this area, and this will, I believe, become grass here.
Sorry, it's not on the digital plan, so.
Well, it is on sheet 2. I didn't have all the dimensions on that, which is sheet 1. But on sheet 2, I actually put the dimensions in there so there would be no doubt how far out he could build his patio. Because it is snuggling right up to the 50-foot, so we don't want any,
Okay, so it doesn't encroach into the 50-foot?
no.
Okay. Hard to tell on this plan.
Okay, and so, again, Ron, you were saying that first wall that was 4 feet, that was approved, right? But it just wasn't,
No, you just see, I added this on Tuesday. You see that originally this was a proposed 2-foot-high wall, and it's shown in red right here.
right?
And so then
That's the one that was approved.
he built these walls on his own, or at least this one here. And I think, obviously, after he was going to put the pool in, he started building a retaining wall for it before he got your approval. So that's
2-foot wall that was approved.
right.
Here, I have.
Is in this red, that's that red wall, just to show that he was a few feet off, but the homeowner doesn't always get things in the right spot, but
Was any part of that wall approved?
this wall here, the one that's out there right now,
Any of it?
A portion of it, half of the height up to the stairs was approved.
So
Everything
that
beyond
wall
that is not.
outside the
this is
50,
the wall that was approved,
Within
and
the
this is what was built, so,
and so did you include the wall, the footprint of both walls?
yes. In
Part
other
of
words, whatever was built within the 50 feet. I included that in the mitigation calculation.
And that's the 106 feet total.
Yes. Mitigation, the 106 minus 23 square feet approved, so I counted what was approved, and it's 83 square feet times 2 is 166, but we provided quite a bit more mitigation, so I think it's if we're a couple of square feet off or something, we got plenty of extra, that's what I'm saying. Can you?
Okay, so my only other question then, and I mean, the proposed pool,
basically it's 3 square feet when I squared this off that I ended up, and that's in the calculation.
And it's all grass on the inside the 50 as well? Is that right?
Well, it's barren earth right now, so.
But was it, before the walls showed up, what was there? It was
It
grass?
would, on the original plan, it would have been grass, yes, like the rest of the yard here.
Okay.
Sorry, these are the original photos in snow.
That's much clearer now.
Sorry.
Grass, I've got that marked here, and it's grass here.
No, it
It's
seemed that was
just this area that's, because the pool's gonna go in, that hasn't been grassed.
Well, I think we could have worked more with the position of the pool and everything.
Smaller pool.
Keep more impact out of the 50, but, I mean, I guess we're still within the 35 and it's a wall.
Well, I mean, if there's a 3-foot, apron that they normally put around the pool. I mean, if you want, we could chop that corner off. That's the only portion of that that's within the 50 feet.
Well, no, I mean, I mean, you put the walls up, I assume you put the walls up to help, to support the pool, right? I mean, that's
How much fill is going in?
the reason you're putting those walls up, right?
There's 4 or 5 feet.
Well, what fill is there is out there now, basically. You guys, when you went out, which was what, before the 4th, and looked at it, basically what you have here, the only thing proposed is this pool, the patio, and the shower, and everything else is there.
But why did you put the,
Well, it's
why
there
did you put
now,
the wall
but
in?
how much fill was brought into the site to create this flat surface for the pool? Because we have 4 or 5 feet of elevation change from the original grade, which you can see there on the left by the silt fence, up to where we are. I mean, that's a significant amount of fill brought in.
There is a significant amount of fill in this area, but unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, the top of foundation, the house is a bit higher because it's required by the zoning. The top of foundation is supposed to be 2 feet higher than the high point of the road adjacent to the house, and that's been a Yarmouth regulation since Captain's Village caused all these water problems. And I think we actually got a variance, I'm going by memory, but I think the top of foundation is not 2 feet, it's 1.5 feet above, and the building inspector gave us that, allowed it. So to a certain degree, when the house is required to be this high, yes, you end up with a certain amount of fill in there. And it's, because of the pool, it's increased, definitely.
To do that within the 50 is just unacceptable. With all of our, all the plans that we reviewed over the years, to bring in that much fill within the 50 is just wrong.
Okay, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I'm trying to follow this, I've been out to the property, and trying to follow your explanation in terms of the walls that were permitted and the ones that weren't, and so on and so forth. And the ones that weren't permitted certainly present some sort of a problem. It appeared to me also, though, that the whole area where the pool is designated to go, there was a wall built around it, and then the fill was brought in to fill up that area so that a pool could exist there. Is that what happened?
I could look at the original plan, and I could calculate how many yards of fill were brought in. There's definitely some fill.
It was fill.
Do you know, you paid
40
people,
yard range, 30 or 40 yards. of
that's
fill.
what you
Yeah,
paid
but-
for?
Yeah.
I
but
think
there
as,
was also-
yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, about 30 or 40 yards, but there was also some of the fill that was removed when the foundation was put in is also back in that area.
Is in there. And so my other question would be, was that approach, I think it's what Mr. Bishop is saying, that that approach to put the fill in that area was not permitted in the original plans. And so if it was done properly, you would have had to come back to the board and ask if fill could be brought in like that. And because it wasn't, there's a possibility that that fill might have to be removed. So that's the big question, right? And so, you know, I just want to, sometimes in these explanations, it gets very convoluted. And I just want to make sure that I understand totally what happened and what the consequences or the result may be. And a lot of times people will come and do that kind of thing, maybe either they know it or not, and then there's some kind of an accommodation made, but it's not often. So I'm just trying to understand clearly what's going on.
Yeah, I have to take initial responsibility. You know, this isn't my, building houses is not my forte, it's not my profession, and I didn't realize that a wall in these areas had to be permitted.
Yeah.
I just, you know, didn't know it.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about ignorance of the law, right? So, I'm sorry. Yes.
Are you done?
Yes.
I have a question about the wall, about the original wall. You said that part of the wall was taken down,
Right.
not all of it?
No, basically, I marked out the edge of the wetland after I went out and looked, and I said, well, this is a 4-foot-high wall. It's not supposed to be higher than 2 feet. So I marked this line here. And so what he did was he removed 2 feet of wall along here, and then he built a terraced wall along here that's 2 feet. So he reduced,
You mean 2 feet in height?
yes.
Okay.
Why did you build, sorry, if you were out and you identified this as a problem, then why did you build another 2-foot wall?
Well, I didn't realize it was such a problem. I was more worried about zoning than you folks. But I didn't want to, I was going to do an as-built plan of what he actually did there, and then bring it before you folks to get,
So you knew that it had to come back to us, right?
well, obviously, I had contacted Brittany, and I said we wanted to add a pool in the backyard. And so she said we'd have to file an amended notice of intent. So that, I knew we would be coming before you folks, and on a prior job,
But
and
if you knew that, I guess my question is then why did you go ahead and build another wall when you knew you were looking at a pool and had to come back to conservation? I don't understand why you would go ahead and build another wall. I understand why you took the 2
because of
feet
the
off.
zoning, because of the zoning.
I understand that, and I'm glad you paid attention to zoning so closely, but not the conservation, but that's the old story. My question is, if you knew that you were clearly in flood zone, that you couldn't build a wall 4 feet tall, then you knocked it back to 2, then why would you allow somebody to go and say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and build another 2-foot wall
Well,
if you knew you were coming back for the pool?
I guess in hindsight, I didn't realize it would be such a problem, but in hindsight, perhaps I should ask him to take down the 2-foot wall and hold off on building the other wall. I did a job in Radio City that was approved a couple of years ago, and at that time, I had to modify the wall heights to all be less than 2 feet on that property. So my impression was that that would be something you folks would want. So rather than come in with a 4-foot high wall, I figured it was better to have two terraced 2-foot high walls. So it, obviously we should have come in sooner, I guess.
I think the moral of the story is always ask permission. You moved the walls closer
Yes.
to the wetland. You had them at the 50, and then you moved them much, much closer. So you should have asked for permission, and now it's up to the commission to see what the next steps are going to be to bring it back into compliance.
I'm sorry, but I'm still confused by this old 4-foot wall, and why you only took some of it down. Why didn't you take it all down?
Because it's only In flood zone, you're not allowed to have a 4-foot tall, you can only have a 2-foot tall, so that's why he just cut, yes, the 4-foot wall was illegal, and so is the 2-foot wall as far as we're concerned, but it now meets zoning, but it doesn't meet our regulation.
So,
All right, so, does anybody else have any questions on this one? Any further questions? Anybody in the audience?
I guess we,
Anybody on Zoom? Don't see anybody? Pat, yes.
I'm just a little confused where we have two different, we have a violation and the amended orders. How are we doing?
Well, right now, what we're considering, we're just voting on the amended order to allow the proposed pool as it's drawn on this plan, okay? So right now, all we're doing is working on that amended order request, and then we'll go back to the enforcement at the end and figure out what we're gonna do with that, so.
it is a little, the walls are also shown on this plan now. So if you approve this plan showing the pool, you would also be approving the walls. Is that not true?
So,
I don't know how we can do one without the other.
So we might need to discuss a bit before we
we could
proceed.
continue this.
Could I ask a question while you're thinking there?
Yeah.
This might not be the best way to phrase it, but what's the bigger problem, the pool or the wall?
The wall is closer to the wetland,
But the pool would only be a problem because of the fill issue that I asked about?
yeah, I would imagine the pool, under regular circumstances, may have been asked to be smaller, but if most of it is outside the 50-foot buffer, it's something we would permit if it's outside the 50. I think the most problem is that to get the pool at the flat elevation, they put the walls
They have to
within
put
the
the wall.
50, which we would not have approved if regular procedure.
The wall that you're referring to.
Along with the fill.
The wall you're referring to in that explanation is
Is both of them.
both of the wall, because they come up to a height of 4 feet when put together?
No, just because they're both within the 50.
Oh, okay, all right. So do you have an idea of a solution too?
Not sure.
could I ask
But we're
a
not here to
question?
make their plans.
I mean, I would say,
But I wonder.
What do you think?
I mean, the question before us is an amended order to propose a swimming pool and walls. That's what the amended order is for.
Yeah.
So we're voting on this plan.
Correct.
Yes.
Do you agree with this plan, or do you not agree with this plan? If you agree with it, you vote yes, and if you don't agree with it, you vote no. Or you can say you want to withdraw, or you can take a continuance and do something to change the plan. But I think the real whole reason you're here is to get the pool, and if you get the pool, the only way you're gonna approve a pool plan is to remove those walls, or allow us, or
And all the fill,
allow
too.
the walls.
And the fill.
And the fill.
And the mitigation will change from these plans.
Could I ask a question, please? How much fill is normally approvable or something? I could calculate the amount of fill that was actually brought in there, because I've got the original plan with the original grades, and obviously some of the fill came from the excavation of the foundation, and then some was brought in. But I could come up with a calculation if that's an issue that a certain amount is allowed and a certain amount isn't, or is there a rule of thumb?
We don't have a set limit, number one. What we do ask is that it be requested and not done, and requested as in the after the fact. And I'm looking at this right now, and it's looking like the walls are at 30, right? No, 30, they're right at
No,
35.
they're 35.
They're right at
Yeah,
35.
one,
So the,
point here is at 35.1, so that just squeaks out. This is 36.2. And those are the two close.
Yeah, so I go back to the original and say, we are here to consider an amended order request for a pool and walls, and that's what you vote on. Doesn't matter if it was here or not, or if it was approved or not, but you are right, if we approve the project, then we approve the walls and the fill as is.
Correct.
And the, yeah, and the mitigation that's
It's the whole
associated
plan,
with this.
what this plan encompasses.
And if that's the case, then we
You're also allowed to
don't really have any
condition it.
reason to do the enforcement order.
that's true. And we can put conditions on it if you choose to approve it.
And, yeah, we would condition this plan. Or you can deny it. We would move on to the enforcement order. Or you can withdraw it.
Right. I wouldn't, I'm assuming you wouldn't be opposed to making some changes, right?
No, we're at the mercy of the board. I mean, we made some mistakes. There was no malicious intent. I'm not going to sell this house. This is the house that my wife and I look to be at for decades to come. We love Yarmouth Port. I'll do whatever has to be done.
So,
So that's my question to the board then. Can you live, I mean, if you're going to sit there and say, okay, they're willing to make some sort of change, and then we go on and we do an enforcement order for this very same project and essentially the same review and purpose, are you going to tell him to remove the wall and the fill? And if that's the case, then I don't see how you're going to put a pool in. Is that right? Would you
well-
say you would have to seek permitting for all of it? Which they have every right to do. And if that's the case, then we're back to where we are right now, and we should just go ahead and vote on this proposal. Jack?
Let me know if I'm going in the wrong direction, but there are options that, for them to go off and, say, take out some of the fill, build a wall behind the house, between the house and the pool, and do other kind of things that would maybe not, they could then depend on, if they lowered the location of the pool, then they could depend on the original wall that was permitted. And, I'm just trying to, in my mind, are there options out there that we would be favorable to if they came back, came back? For instance, it's a 26 pool, how about a 20 pool, 20-foot, that kind of thing, and you could, are you looking at options like that where you could reconfigure what you're doing there and we would be more amenable to? Is that a proper question?
No, I mean, I think you're phrasing a good question. So, I mean, if you feel like you could change this plan, that would make it more amenable to conservation-related regulations, then I think we would probably look at that more favorably than approving something that's already halfway done and that we didn't have any approval over and that we didn't condition or anything. So I think there are possibly things that you could do to make that more palatable, I guess, to us.
Well, just an observation here, if he moves it from the 12 by 26, if my measurements are right, and he does it 10 by 20, that would take it right to the old 16-foot line and it wouldn't need to fill.
But the fill is already there.
yeah, the old,
So if that's the case, then you would have to remove the fill, or we have to approve the fill under the enforcement.
But if you take out half the fill, that's what I'm saying, lowering it,
You have to move the walls.
Remove the walls.
yeah, and keep the walls down, lower, and then have better drainage, the way we put in planting and things.
so if I can ask a question of the commissioners, my impression is that a number of you are not comfortable with the walls and the fill.
maybe if it was walls or fill, maybe it would fly, but both of them together, you're not comfortable with. Is that a fair assessment? Well, if I can comment, I think what I'm thinking about is that, given the effort that was put into this, and given to a certain amount of misunderstanding, that in cases like this, it might be a great idea to encourage a continuance and have the owners go back to the drawing board and bring, as I think Ed said, a plan that might be more in keeping with the regulations of the Conservation Commission, to get it, to take another shot at it. It might require the removal of some stuff like fill and walls and so on, but at least it would come back, if you had consultation with the right people about what would pass this commission's, or be acceptable to this commission's responsibilities. I don't know. That's kind of what I would like to see.
So, I mean, my only question to the board then is, if this plan came before you today, not with any violations that we have right now that are there, but if this plan came to you today, would you approve this plan with the fill and the walls and everything staying at 35, behind the 35, outside the 35?
But in saying that, what you're not saying in a way is that the amount of fill that went in there was inappropriate. To say, would you vote for it or not? The thing is, I would like to know more about how much fill was supposed to be brought in and how much was brought in.
Well, there wasn't supposed to be any fill brought in.
Okay, then that's a problem. And so if I knew that, I probably would not vote in favor of this plan because of those problems, okay? But I think that maybe, the homeowner could go back to the drawing board. I mean, is that inappropriate to say? And maybe the homeowner will find that, you know what, I got to pull out fill anyway if I want to put a pool of any size in here, and so that might help mitigate this entire problem. And then the walls, well, they would have to be approached as well. But then I'd like to see that final plan, and maybe it would be more in keeping what we expect in that particular area,
We're willing to continue and rework the plan and come back. And in that light, obviously you want the fill reduced, is one of the things you want. I can calculate the amount of fill that was actually put in there.
He said he paid for or brought in 40 yards.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
30 to 40 yards, I can't remember the number.
But we might be able to come up with some figures, but I have the contours
But then you also
before.
took other stuff out of the foundation hole, so
More than 40 there.
there was more than 40 there.
Right.
So if you, I mean, again, if you want to make that exercise and figure that would probably be useful, but if you feel that like you can.
The other thing is to reduce what we're proposing, come back with a reduction that somehow gets him a pool that he's interested in, but maybe removes some wall or something.
This is just getting.
Another question. Is hydrangeas a native?
No, but unfortunately, on the approved original plan, there are hydrangeas listed. So we do have to allow some number of hydrangeas, but not entirely hydrangeas.
I don't think they're invasive like that grass that you were talking about. In other words,
But
they don't
plantings
spread.
in our mitigation area are required to be on our native approved plant list, which
Yeah.
hydrangeas are not on.
I
But
think
since
we got
they were
bigger
approved
fish to fry
originally,
than the
yeah,
vegetation
just explaining.
at this point.
I don't want that thrown at him after
Yeah.
we did a plan. So I wanted to bring it up just so that it was
The
clear.
ones that are there are okay.
Okay.
Could I bring up something too about the stones, instead of the swale that was supposed to be vegetated? Maybe that would be something you'd look at, to remove those stones from the swale? And think of because the original plans, you were supposed to have it vegetated.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
So that's another thing to think of when you're thinking.
okay.
Proposing.
Yeah, I don't want him coming back with just the pool and then we point out all these other issues that,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
A pen?
You have a vote
It's a
on-
note about dry wells, were the dry wells installed on on the house?
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay,
No water leaves the property.
okay.
On the surface.
Okay, so if you would like to reconsider things and take a continuance to do that,
That is the request.
then I'm just trying to think how we're gonna deal with the enforcement order then. Because obviously the enforcement order is gonna
Just
be,
continue that as well.
so I would,
I mean,
yeah, I would not, I think I would just table the enforcement hearing for now. But I think you should also seriously do what you can to get rid of the complaint that the enforcement order was originally written for. I think that's gonna go a long way. But you need to put that on the plan, that if you're removing fill, you need to be specific as to how much fill you're removing. If you're removing wall, you have to show that if you're changing or manipulating the position of the walls because of the removed fill, because of the size of the pool or the juxtaposition of the pool, that all needs to be put on the plan.
Okay.
And then you need to also tell us how you're restoring that area, if you're removing walls and, because I think that's one thing that we're gonna be looking for. If you're removing or altering those walls again, removing fill, you also need to show what you're doing, but you also need to show what you're gonna do to restore the area after the removal. So you got a lot to,
Okay.
you got a lot to put on a plan.
All right. Thank you.
You need a month,
At least.
6 weeks?
6 weeks would be better.
Okay, so what are we looking at?
I'm gonna speak for you. How's your schedule?
I'm retired. My schedule is open. In regards to you, I'm retired, so.
so 7 weeks would be March 7th, because February is a 5 Thursday.
Okay, so March 7th is the hearing date. We would need it by March 1st, then. We don't need a plan by March 1st.
March 7th and planned by March 1st. Okay,
Sound good?
that sounds good.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion to continue this to March 7th?
Make it.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see you on the 7th of March.
Thank you.
So if that's the case, then I'm going to just go slightly out of order, just so we can cover this all right now. So the enforcement item for Stephen and Christine Arden, 65 Winter Street, unpermitted walls, fill, and stone in the buffer zone and to a bordering vegetated wetland, we are tabling that until March 7th.
You want me to put this away?
It's okay, I can do it. Unless you got it already.
You don't have to vote.
Nope, I just tabled it.
Okay, great.
And then, next order of business, a request for certificate of compliance for SE 83-2312, 60 Bray Farm Road. We're all good? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 60 Bray Farm Road, 83-2312?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Bishop?
Bishop, got it, okay, you and Bishop.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
I thought that was
All right,
the,
next order of business, back to enforcement. Rosangela Caloero, Oyster Cove Road, unpermitted dock and land under the ocean. We have gotten a request from the attorney for Ms. Calero, is it Calero? Is that how you
Calero?
pronounce it?
Colo Hero.
Calero. Please be advised that I've been retained by Rosangela Calero with respect to the above referenced matter. He's respectfully requesting that the matter be continued to a date in February. I'm available February 1st, 8th, 15th, 22. So that will be going to February 1st, right? So do I have a motion to, actually, I'm just going to table it to February 1st.
A motion.
There are two people.
No motion needed.
The Zoom.
All right, approval of the minutes, December 21st and January 4th.
I
Anybody
make a
read
motion,
them?
we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
I can't vote on the 21st.
Yeah, several of you,
Hold on, I have to do it both, one at a time. So for December 21st, 2023, yes, Ellie?
I make that motion, yep.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Frost seconded.
All those in favor?
So it's
Opposed?
just the four of you.
So there's
And it's just,
You, Ed, Pat, Jack, and Ellie, 4-0.
so it's 4-0, 2 abstentions. Should be 3 abstentions, right?
Yeah.
Who's the third? Myself. Oh, Rick wasn't there either?
again, then do I have a motion to approve the minutes for January 4th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So there's 6-0, one
Unanimous,
abstention.
1 extension.
Yep.
Or sorry, 6 to 0 with 1 abstention. All right, other business not reasonably anticipated. Again, I just will remind everybody that MACC spring meeting has been announced. It's March 2nd. There are 2 fundamental units that are being offered as part of the,
We got cut. Excuse?
we're back.
That's not us.
No, that's Kathy.
William,
Dated.
new operating deck.
I was gonna say, somebody's clearly not,
So it's a
Rushing us
Saturday?
out.
The spring conference is a Saturday?
it's a Saturday.
Okay, that's weird.
What's the date of it again?
Is it it's
March 2nd.
Usually a Saturday.
In Worcester.
And, yeah, College of Holy Cross, the schedule is out. If you have any interest in winter botany, too bad, you're not gonna make it.
Yeah.
Really?
But other workshops are available. Like I said, there are 2 fundamentals sections that are being offered as well. And I think that's about all we have on that one. There are some things with the regulations, and there are also regulations updates through DEP for the flood zone, stormwater, and water quality cert stuff that's coming through, so you can take advantage of those if you want to.
Is that at all Zoom or is that all in person?
The
Which one?
MACC is in person, and there are a couple of the workshops that are also hybrid, but a limited number of the workshops are hybrid. And all of the DEP regulations updates are virtual.
On that same day?
Oh, that's good.
No,
Those are separate
the
entities.
regulation updates are, if you want to, you can rush home and hop on. You only missed the 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes, so they're doing one tonight.
Well, by the time you get home, it'll be 20 minutes.
And then one next,
Tomorrow is one.
not tomorrow.
No, not
Yeah.
tomorrow.
No, it's not tomorrow. I think you're thinking, I think that's a chapter 91, but next Wednesday, next Tuesday, Tuesday the 23rd.
They said tomorrow, and I just watched it.
I'll have to check, because it's not on my,
Not the hearing, but info.
Yeah, no, DEP regulations for stormwater, land subject coastal storm flowage, and water quality cert there's the first one is at 1 o'clock this afternoon, 6 o'clock tonight, and then 1 o'clock on Tuesday the 23rd. And then again,
Okay.
January 31st at 1 and 6, and February 1st at 1. That'll do that. And then there's also Chapter 91 regulations that are being updated, which were yesterday, and I think again tomorrow, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not, because I don't pay attention. I don't pay attention to anyone.
What kind of input do we normally make on something like that, or is it all through,
they're open for public comment. You can make whatever input you'd like.
but we as a group don't?
We can if you'd like to. If the
Okay,
board has
yeah.
comments, we can consolidate them and I can submit them under the commission, if you'd like to do that. I'm pretty sure the agents network on Cape Cod, we're gonna have comments from the conservation agents and administrators from every town. So it'd be good to add to that.
The stuff I saw today isn't worth, I mean, it's not enough detail to comment. So we'd have to really dig into the,
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's gonna be the same, I think it's gonna be more or less the same repetition of information with the same people and everything. But you can also read the new regulation and then make comments yourself that way, or if you can, we can do it as a group. What I would suggest we do is, like, if we're gonna do it, we just, you can send it in as a personal, recording. You cannot, you obviously can't speak for the Yarmouth Commission if you do that. We can also take all of everybody's comments and put it into our thing for the conservation agents, review. So, a
Either
couple
way
different
works.
ways you can do it.
either way, send me your comments. I could put them in just with Yarmouth or with the Cape as a whole.
Okay, so Rick, you have something?
I do. On Wednesday, next Wednesday, the January 24th, we'll be hosting here a formal public comment hearing for the Upper Bass River Headwaters Restoration Project that we've been talking about for a while. I can alert the commission that within the year, that project will be before us for approval. So I think it'll be a good opportunity to review the project. You can do it online, on TV, or come in here and be here for the live presentation.
have to bring your own chair if you come here.
I don't know, I'm not sure. We'll see. I think, based on the comments I've heard, I think we'll have a pretty good crowd. But it's the first formal presentation at this level.
Are you sending out a Zoom notice?
Posted on the Town of Yarmouth website under DPW.
Say that again?
It's on the Town of Yarmouth DPW webpage. The Zoom link is posted.
The big announcement for me is that the Friends of Bass River is officially handing off to the Town of Yarmouth at this point.
Handing off what?
Handing off the project to the Town of Yarmouth, which is a kind of milestone for the Friends of Bass River, for sure. We've been working on it for 4 years.
What does that mean, though? I mean, they're responsible from there on in?
They'll manage the construction and implementation of the project.
Will you get a review role or anything like that?
I have another project all teed up, ready to go, so.
No, I meant through this, as it goes, as it's constructed, are you, as the Bass River Group, going to be involved in any kind of oversight or anything like that?
Not officially, because it's a town project at that point, yeah.
But you might be able to.
Yes. I know it quite well.
Just a quick question, and I know it's not a quick answer, but I've been, and I communicated with Brittany about this. The bog up on the corner of
White Rock Road.
Union Street, White Rock, that's connected to that. That's somehow connected to the whole area.
There is an under Station Avenue under Union Street, very small connection, but we've ended our project at Miss Thatcher's Pond, which is where the retired carnarvon bogs all end in the fresh water, because that's really important to the reestablishment of the fish habitat from the river all the way up to its natural spawning grounds.
Yeah, because I always hear that there's some sort of toxic plume that is infiltrating that particular cranberry bog, and I'm just interested in maybe it's something to talk to the town now that they're taking over this other project, and do something about that area. It's such a shame that it's going to pot the way it is.
I agree with you, Paul, and I'll just say everything I said in our correspondence. It's a great project. Cranberry bog restoration is taking off all over the Cape and Massachusetts. It's really important to the state. The town of Yarmouth has several enormous projects starting this year and the past year, with starting the Upper Headwaters Restoration Project, the Riverwalk Park, wastewater, and the new Chasebrook Parks. We only have so many staff members that can do project management, so it's 4 huge projects just starting. I agree with you that it's a fantastic project, fantastic idea, but I don't think we're going to be able to get that started.
I appreciate that, and I know you put that in your note back to me. The thing is that's not, this project has been on the board. I don't know when they purchased that that land, that cranberry bog, but it was many years ago now. It has to be 15 years ago. And so to let something like that just go to waste, to growing in with poison ivy and phragmites and everything else, and it's a perfectly wonderful area that can be used for recreation, et cetera. To say, you know what, we have a lot of projects, I understand that, but maybe you have to take one more into the fold here, because that's very visible. It's very evident that that's something that exists in the town. Probably most people don't know that the town bought it several years ago, and they're just letting it go to hell, you know? And so to say, well, we don't have time for it now, I understand it, but it doesn't sit well with me. You know, I
Totally
just think for the
understandable.
sake of this town and its natural resources, that's something that should have every bit of a priority as the wonderful project that Rick has been working on, the reestablishment of the bog down near the hospital, the idea of cleaning up the phragmites over at, in various ponds down there. Got to put that on the board too. And so, you know, I guess my next effort will be maybe to talk to Jeff Colby or maybe talk to somebody else to see, because, you know, the other thing, last thing I'll say, you know that money exists with the Community Preservation Committee, at least some of the money that could even start that program, get a feasibility study. So those are some of the things that I'm interested in. I don't want to wait, I'm getting too old, you know?
I understand.
Well, I hesitate to say this, but I am retired. I've reviewed and written a few proposals, and if there's some kind of assistance that you could drag out of us, I don't know if the rest of you are going to appreciate me saying this, but I'm certainly open.
Remember, we know where you live.
Yeah, even though money's out there, even applying for grants, once you get a grant, following through with that grant is a full-time job for every project. So having so many, I'm only one person. That's all I can say right now, but I can definitely tell you we'll try and make it a priority, but that's as far as I can do for you at the moment.
No, but the thing is, you're saying, I understand you have a full plate, you're only one person, but there are other departments in this town. And I'm not saying they don't have a lot to do either, but certainly heads could be put together and efforts could be supported by one department along with another to at least begin a plan for this particular area. Again, a feasibility study. Natural resources should be interested in this. So if everybody did a little bit, it would at least get going somewhat, you know? Put it on the board. You know, just don't say, well, we don't have time. That's not acceptable. I understand what you're saying, but, you know, I would say this to anybody in this town government, that, you know, you have to do some of these things.
Well, the selectmen have brought up that piece of land.
Yeah.
That
Well-
something could be done with that. We're hoping to have something
Oh,
done with it.
it could be a wonderful area. It just
And it
lends
is very
itself-
visible.
Yeah, and it looks like, it just looks so awful now, it's so terrible.
Is there a way, how do we start, or somebody else has to start committees or get volunteer groups to, just like they did on the movie lot? And I know some of the people that were a part of that, getting it started, but I just,
And that's been going on for 15 years.
what?
I mean, that's been in place for 15 years. It took for
35
them-
years.
Yeah, for very much time. So
Yeah.
I agree, it's a good idea.
I would like to talk to, I'm forgetting his name now.
Jeff Colby?
No, not Jeff, Jeff would be fine to talk to, but the head of the,
Bill Benetti?
Benetti, Department of Natural Resources, and see if he has any ideas. Because he's doing some things now, he's getting money from the Community Preservation Committee to identify town wastewater and to put signage up for town wastewater. And that's much more complicated than it might sound, because there's some places where some folks think they privately own town wastewater. So he's going to have a job there, you know. So I know that he's interested in those kinds of things, and I would think he'd be interested in at least putting this on the forefront in terms of a of area that need to be helped, you know?
Thanks, Paul.
I don't know. So I'll be happy to talk to him and Jeff, you know.
I'm just wondering how much of the infiltration of the plume is sort of making them hesitate on that, because if it gets to a point where they have to do a clean, a massive
Well,
cleanup.
wouldn't that make them want to deal with it sooner rather than later? I've been hearing that for years.
For sure, I mean, it's just talk.
So what do we
There's
think?
also talk about the PFAS that are being invasive in some of our conservation areas,
The what?
too. PFAS,
Chemicals.
the chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
They're starting to infiltrate in some of our conservation
It
areas.
doesn't do us good to put our head in the sand and say, well, it's that toxic. I don't even know. That might be a wrong way to
How you
phrase
go
it.
about cleaning that up?
It had to do with, they used to dump the sewage over at the town dump, and that's my understanding, and something is infiltrated.
But it hasn't been really, it hasn't really been
Yeah,
quantified.
so anyway,
It's
so.
talk.
All right. So I think, David, you had a,
Just a quick question about the opening in the office, anything going
Two
on
interviews next week.
next week? Did you rewrite the job description, or is it the same?
It is the same.
you said an interview, right?
I have 2 interviews next week.
Did you have 2 candidates?
I have a lot of candidates.
A lot of them?
Not a lot
You
I want to
qualified?
interview.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Motion, we adjourn?
Anybody else?
Second?
Or second?
Yep, Kelly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Stand adjourned at 6:21 PM.